So as a campaigner and having been to Taiji, the drive hunts are among the most heart-wrenching of issues that I work on with WDCS. However, I was aware of these hunts long before beginning my work with WDCS. I recall as a child the National Geographic magazine issue, I believe it was in the late 1970s, that profiled the drive hunts along with some very graphic images. And those images have stayed with me, and that story has stayed with me. And I think that the drive hunts are so heart-wrenching because we are able to witness the individual lives of dolphins being slaughtered. We can hear their cries, we can witness their suffering, and no longer is it a matter of statistics where we know and hear that 20,000 whales and dolphins are killed along the coastlines of Japan, but now we can see the individuals, we can witness their suffering, we can see the mothers and babies struggling against the nets and thrashing about in the cove. And whether we see it on the movie screen or whether we see it over the internet, these images are very personal, they're very individual, and we are right there with those dolphins suffering right along with them. And I think the issue is so heart-wrenching as well because even after decades of exposure, even after decades of media attention, and even with the most recent intense scrutiny that has resulted and the protests that have resulted from the cove, and this issue really rising in the public's profile and consciousness, the hunts continue, and they continue with almost more determination than ever. And I think it's so heart-wrenching as well because we almost can't fathom that these acts and these activities can still happen in a modern society. And I think we're really profoundly impacted by the suffering that we see right next to us. The fishermen and authorities in Japan are reacting to the outside pressure and our protests in almost a schizophrenic manner. It's interesting and challenging to note that, for instance, the fishermen have resorted to new methods of killing the dolphins in attempts to keep blood out of the water, for instance, but yet maybe prolonging the suffering of the animals. They have resorted to herding dolphins offshore, out of sight from the cove and out of sight from the public view. They have resorted to selectively releasing some of the animals, sometimes just bottlenose dolphins, in an attempt to appease this pressure that's coming from the public, perhaps thinking that if Flipper is released, we'll be okay and the issue will go away. They've also released mothers and babies, almost in attempts to, again, address that pressure that we've been, and the messages we've been sending them. And the only response that we will accept, and the only response that is, the only response that we seek is for the killing to stop. And that is the only response that we will accept. And yet, you know, never before has there been so much attention and public awareness around this issue. Never before have so many traveled to Taiji to bear witness to the hunts. And I think change may be on the horizon. If you look at the stages of change, you know, it starts with denial, vociferous and violent denial sometimes, and holding on to traditions and clinging to the past. And then you have the stage of resistance where sometimes there's blame and victimization, but the change is on the horizon. And then you have the next stage of exploration where there's a lot of questioning and the exploration of new ideas. And then the final stage is acceptance. And this is where there's new understanding and a collaboration that means protection for the dolphins. And I'm hopeful that humanity can evolve. I'm hopeful that we will see the end to the drive hunts. And I think we're in the middle of that process of change right now. And as long as there's an acceptance that things must change, there is hope. And we all are obligated and compelled to question and oppose cruelty in all of its forms. And we will continue to do so here at WDCS.